and welcome to this episode of The Songs We Sang. I'm Sean Green. Barbadian folklore goes a long way in telling the stories of a nation's past through song. In this program, we feature some of those Barbadian folk songs we sang in primary school, songs about Barbadian personalities, starting with women. The plight of a young lady called Millie, who is alleged to have gone to Brazil. Now that has become one of the most famous folk songs in Barbados.
Essentially, I think for Millie gone to Brazil, I guess the song is pretty straightforward. You can guess from it. But from what I think I understand from it is that someone would have killed Millie and then passed the message that she gone to Brazil.
Millie gone to Brazil. Well, that's based on this guy back around years ago, about 1930 or so. He killed his girlfriend. So when anyone asks where she was, he would say, oh, she gone to Brazil.
The story is that he killed his wife, his spouse, his partner, and when the people in the village couldn't find her and they asked him, he would say, Millie gone to Brazil. Right? But again, that particular song speaks to what was happening economically, societally, culturally, and so on.
My grandfather did say, I believe it happened around the 20s, the 30s, but he did mention that it's a historical fact that it happened as the song describes, that there was this lady and this guy, she disappeared, and then the partner, when questioned, said she had gone to Brazil, which is a common place for Barbadians to go.
It's an actual occurrence that happened in the 1920s where a husband would have said, you know, my wife has left to go out to Brazil, where they were actually migrating to work on the train road. We know nothing. We know that was actually incorrect. Yeah? He had actually murdered his wife and was using that as an alibi.
Somebody killed his lover. He was accusing her basically of infidelity, and no matter what she said, he wouldn't be here. So he invited her for a walk, took her for a walk, and they walked together, and he came back by himself. It was a pretty extensive investigation. Her body was found in a well, and he played a good part all the time through.
It is very much fact. Millie was very much a real person. Her full name is Millicent Gittins, and she was originally from Westbury Road, and Gittins Gap, actually in Westbury Road. And she worked as a living maid at the Seeley family in Fitz Village. And she would normally sometimes walk from Fitz Village to Bridgetown along the old Batsrock Road with her boyfriend. And it's along the Batsrock beach that the murder occurred. She went missing, and her employers called the police. The police investigated, and eventually they found on the beach at Batsrock a trail of blood leading to a tank that was there to give water to the cattle that were in the area. There was a dairy farm in the area at the time, because the landscape of Spring Garden and Batsrock was totally different in those days.
What was also different in those days was the high level of Barbadians migrating to other parts of the Americas, including Brazil.
If you listen to that song and you do your research like you would have done, you get that bit of Barbadian history, persons migrating to Brazil. Why? You can attribute it then to the lack of opportunity that was within the society after emancipation.
Barbadians have always been migrating to various Caribbean islands because due to the lack of work post-emancipation and the competitive nature of the plantation life, how tough times were outside of crop season. So it encouraged a lot of external migration, and Brazil is one of these places they went to.
Persons were going to Panama earlier. Some were still going. People were going to Brazil. they're going to the other islands in the Caribbean. Barbados was really in their economic straits. Wages were low. So persons took the opportunity to go wherever they could earn a better wage. Guyana also was another destination, Trinidad. So people were just going all over the place.
Most people believed it because at that time, many persons were going off to Brazil.
I think the Millie going to Brazil, because to me that has a lot of themes coming out. One is patriarchy, the power of men to do as they like, especially in the society of that time, and it speaks to the narrative of migration. And at that particular point, it was migration to Brazil. But I've always been interested in migration for various reasons. And one is because I'm the child of migrants. But secondly, the whole history of Barbados, the whole history of the Caribbean is one of migration. And what stands out is Barbadians' quest to leave Barbados to make a better life, because within the confines of the island, the society, the politics, the economics always restricts us, even now today, right? So I think that that particular folk song speaks to social class, patriarchy, migration, and why migration has always been a trope of importance for Barbadians.
But it was popular to be going to Brazil at that time. That's why he could say that. But people were going to several other Caribbean islands as well. Curacao was another place that a lot of people went, because several of my father's family members went to Curacao. They were going everywhere. Anywhere that they could get to go, they went. Because life, you see, when you see people migrating like that, there's always a push factor. And life was hard in Barbados. There are no two ways about it. It was really, really hard. For black people in Barbados, it was difficult to buy land. It was difficult to get a proper education.
Unfortunately for the boyfriend, he said she was going to Brazil. But when the police investigated the matter, and this is before they found the body, the only boat that left Barbados at that particular time was going to Venezuela. So because of the popularity of people going to Brazil, he used Brazil as an alibi. Unfortunately, obviously he didn't know the schedule of the boats and everything else. And of course, one of the things he also knew, I believe, was that she had a sister living in Brazil. Unfortunately, I've not been able to find any information on her, but he more than likely would have known that, would have been aware of that information. So maybe that's one of the other reasons that he tried to use Brazil as an excuse.
Millie gone to Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. Millie gone to Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. For the wire around she waist, and the razor cut out she face. For the wire around she waist, and the razor cut out she face. Millie gone to Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. Millie gone to Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. For the wire around she waist, and the razor cut out she face. When the wire around she waist, and the razor cut out she face.
Because of the cheerful melodies, and we teach them at a very young age, so it's all a game, isn't it? We're laughing and we are enjoying them. And I dare say, one thing, looking at all of the research that has been done on popular culture and how a society basically digests it, you then have to ask yourself, okay, so they're an integral part of our history here as a people here within our society. However, can they perhaps be contributing to the fact that our social issues are persisting?
It depends on the performance is done. Most performances I've seen have taken on the nature of the lyric and tried to make it a serious presentation. But we need to maybe speak to the kids beforehand of how serious the event was, because when we go through the verses, especially on what transpired, oh Lord, poor Millie. Millie gone to Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. And we come in next verse, Millie down in the well, oh Lord, poor Millie. Right? And with the wire tie around she waist and the razor cut up she face. When you really break down the lyrics, that's a quite a dark song. Especially set to this happy Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. Millie gone to Brazil, oh Lord, poor Millie. When you set it to that now, then you get a whole set of the difference is what's called a juxtaposition. We got a happy melody and this real dark tale. So maybe some dissection of those lyrics before it's performed needs to be done, especially when done with primary school children. They're already explained to them how dark that song actually is.
Because we teach them at a very young age and we make it all seem very frivolous, don't we? We laugh. With the wire wrapped around she waist and the razor cut up she face, and the whole children are laughing and they're singing this, yeah? The standpipe song, every time she passed, I pull at she. So we're making light of some very serious issues. And I dare say perhaps when we get older, we learn this very young, when we get older perhaps, is that the reason why we continue to make light of them in our in adulthood? Perhaps. Yeah? So that's something that perhaps as a society we can begin to think about. I'm not saying that we are going to do away with our folk songs, yes, but I do think that we must make the little ones aware of the dark side, the dark nature of them as well. That is often contrasted with the melody. It's a very upbeat melody with some dark, serious content. So basically what that underlines is the satirical nature of these folk songs as well.
According to Dr. Allen, who published a book about the event, one of the lines in the actual song, "Oh Lord, poor Millie," came from someone you would least expect.
Well, that line, when Millie's body was discovered in the tank, a number of people were gathered there, including the murderer himself. So at that point, he said, "Oh Lord, poor Millie." So that is how that line came about. And we don't know who composed the rest of the song, but of course, knowing how these sayings emerge and songs emerge, probably someone there, remembered, and it became a popular folk song. The wire was collected from a neighbor's, from the village, a lady in the village along the Backstreet Road. The young man, her boyfriend, he had asked for this piece of wire. All that came out in the evidence in the court. And he had told a friend about, who used to walk with them sometimes, about cutting up Millie. Now, it's a sad event, so more than likely it may not have been meant. The song in its original form may not have been sung like the way we sing it today because of what it was about. But it has emerged as a very popular folk song.
So we've had the tragic story of Millicent Gittins captured within the lyrics of Millie Gone to Brazil. Now there's another Barbadian folk song which also talks about another female personality, Miss Mattie.
Last year, my teaching partner and I, Miss Gibson, we decided that we were going to do something that the children wouldn't usually hear, and we did Miss Mattie. So we spoke to them about the bread, we spoke to them about the ingredients to make bread. So in that song, it talked about lard and stuff like that. So we did a whole production, we made the things, we spoke to the children about it, and they learned about a part of Barbados, Kendall Yard. St. John. So that was exciting because, you know, you want them to be exposed to as much as possible. Yes, there are things that they may have known from before, but also parts of our culture that they may not necessarily know. So introducing them to something new was also exciting for me.
Miss Mattie tells the story of a very persistent itinerant seller from the parish of St. John who walks around selling various items, bakes, coffee, mauby, and so on to workers at plantations in St. John, like Kendall and Clareberry and Bath. And they are bemoaning the fact that despite the fact that they do not have any money, she still comes around.
Miss Mattie was a hawker who does make bread, and the folk song is from St. John area. So if you go through all of the verses, you can hear the places that are actual places: Bowmanston, Kendall Yard.
And how she had to be basically an entrepreneur, a very persistent one as well. Look at the theme that is being revealed within that particular song. It's still relevant today in 2023, isn't it? The fact is that in order to survive within society, you have to be someone who is persistent and doggedly pursuing entrepreneurial pursuits, yeah? So again, they do speak somewhat to the dark nature, but you don't have to focus on that.
I think Miss Mattie is an example of hard-working country folk in Barbados, because let's put it this way, in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and even beyond, life was not easy in Barbados. People had to fend for themselves. I mean, you had children, and especially if the fathers, you know, were dead or not supporting them, you had to look out for ways and means of supporting. And Miss Mattie is one of those women who would have walked from plantation to plantation, selling bread and fish cakes and whatever she could make. And that meant getting up early in the morning, making those things, and then walking all the distance between all the various plantations.
Miss Mattie does make some big bread. But Miss Mattie was actually a person, and she used to travel around selling bread. Now, especially in the area of St. John. Now, the persons, the laborers, the workers in St. John, in Kendall especially, they were experiencing some hardships. But Miss Mattie will still go around with her bread and two, and cocoa tea, and mauby, and muffins, and whatever bread she made to deliver to those people. She also went to many other places in St. John, a few other areas.
She used to go out there and sell bread. And it was a practice to put soda to kill your dead. You put in the soda, make the bread bigger, so you could sell it for a little bit more. You don't want no flat, small looking coconut bread. You want a nice fat big one. And it used to be hard, it didn't taste good, but she can charge you for it though. Yeah.
So the whole idea that she walked into Bowmanston with her bread and something knocking you down, you know, you can smell it. And so that song gives a really good rundown of the sorts of things that Miss Mattie was selling in all, you know, the sweet bread and all the various types of bread that you could get in those days. We can still get them now, thank heavens. A lot of them are still around. But Miss Mattie is that sort of person who would have worked very hard to make a living and would have walked, because in those days there were no buses taking you from here to there. There were no buses and nobody had cars. Poor people, black people would not have had cars, you know? So she would have walked long distances in order to make, and then go home to start that same process over again, to do it again the next day. Hard work.
Miss Mattie, you make some big bread, but in soda to kill you dead. You know, we know the time's so hard, you won't keep out a candle yard. More advice again about when women behave, what you do in a candle yard for, and that big bread is also, because it's a double entendre possibly. Who knows? I do suggest it is. So a lot of that stuff is based on advice for young women. Young women do this, young women do that. Look at this young woman and make fun of women, and that whole controlling aspect. You know, they try to keep listen to this song. You don't want to be like Miss Mattie. So be Miss Moral type of character, young women, and a lot of that comes through in our music. and folk music in the Caribbean in general of that particular period.
Another more recent folk song comes to mind when it comes to Barbadian female entrepreneurs. Who remembers this one, made popular by the Merry Men and Sing Out Barbados?
Get it first. There go Who calling, darling? What happened to your young fella? No. Who calling? Look, my hair, love. Singing and swimming, is the old massage. Go first office, back into nuts. Tell me where you want your young girl, funniest thing you ever.
That's one of the more recent. When I say recent, I mean, you know, some of these folk songs are very, very old, but that is one that I think I heard. Right, the Merry Men made that popular, but the Nut Seller, yes. Take your hand up my tray, young fella, yes. And a lot of them used to be in the bus terminals, and they walked everywhere. They walked around a lot, but they focused on areas where there were lots of people. I think it's the same thing now with the snow cone vendors and people like that who, you know. But you know, that song also gives a wonderful rundown of you know, tray all packed down to the brim, not a chance of falling into the sweet sugar cakes. I mean, I can visualize it now. I don't know if you ever used to go in the Jubilee bus terminal and, oh boy, all the little packs with the nuts and the sugar cakes of all the colors and comfort.
Next time you should stop and listen. This is what they say. Go first office, package your nuts. Don't put one hand in my tray.
That was a really good part of our past, I think, because you could sit in the bus and pay, you know, they would come and sell you through the bus window. That's right. And of course that was easy because in those days too, and this is even before the days of what we call the Leyland buses, the big blue buses, when they had the board buses, you know, people would pass the nut. Yes, people would pass if you wanted the nuts, so people would pass them down. The lady is on one side and she would pass it down. You pass the money back, and it, you know, there was such friendly, you know, real honesty and so on.
Now let's look at one more Bajan folk song centered around the Bajan female. Also made popular by Sing Out Barbados, this song goes by a few names. Tell your mother don't send you down here, Every Time You Pass, and it also has one other name.
Every day she come down here, she looking so good, good. And every time she pass by here, I like to touch her she bouncy, I like to touch her she bouncy. Every day she come down here, she looking so good, good. And every time she pass by here, I like to touch her she bouncy, I like to touch her she bouncy, I like to touch her she boom.
That is called a standpipe song, and I guess that is one that you could say actually referenced the darker side of our society in terms of female relationships, because it's really about sexual harassment, isn't it?
It might have been sexual harassment looking at it from today's point of view, but boys will be boys, men will be men. And if you see a good-looking girl going down to the standpoint, and you know, they're teasing her, telling her how good she looks and that sort of thing, you know. But yes, in today's worldview, it would have been. In the worldview of that time, I think it was just banter for the guys interfering with the young lady as she passed.
You also have that, yes, I do agree with what Peggy is saying about, yes, the standpipe thing and people having, you know, the gentle banter. But we also are seeing during that period a significant amount of assault on women.
Every day she come down here, she looking so good, good. And every time she pass by here, she make me feel good, good. And she mama come down here, and she sister come down here, and she sister come down here. And then she pass by here, and she mama don't send she down here. And she mama don't send she down here.
I came across a section where there was a member of parliament at the time who was saying that Spikestown needs to have some extra policing down there because women can't go on the beach in peace, and men harassed them, especially on the beach when they're wearing the swim clothes. And in those days, the swim clothes were nothing like what we wear now. I mean, I notice I said nothing because not me. Those swim clothes at that time, they will reach you down to your knees. But he said that women and that women in Spikestown who lived alongside, close to the beach, they were terrified to open their back doors to go out on the beach because the men were always out there walking about, ready.
So good, good. And every time she pass by here, she make me feel good. Good as she mama come down here. Yes, she auntie come down here. Yes, she sister come down here. And as she pass by here, tell she mama don't send she down here. I'm gonna tell she mama don't send she down here. Tell she mama don't send she down here. I'm gonna tell she mama don't send she down here. You better tell she mama don't send she down here.
Well, this is where we end this edition of the Songs We Sang. Now we go into the CBC archives for this one to end this episode. It's the Dickens Primary School performing Miss Matty at the 40th anniversary of NIFCA.